Kelvin Davis.
Mr Speaker, I'm quite stunned actually by that contribution by the member Nuk Korako. If he's talking about separatism and division, we just need to look at how Māori over the years have been separated and divided from our land. He says when Māori used to possess 100% of the land, and we're now down to less than 5% of the land, and yet he talks about equality and not being separated. Look, quite frankly, I'm disappointed. I mean, there have been so many ways that Māori have been separated from their land, or from our land, I should say, over the years. I mean, let's look at some of the ways. The old land claims. Back in the day, a settler would turn up and say, look, I've purchased 10,000 acres from this old chief up north. And then the Crown comes along and surveys it and goes, actually, you've only purchased 1,000 acres. And you would think that the other 9,000 acres would be returned to that old chief up north. Instead, it would go to the Crown. That's wrong. Let me give you an example. If we think of the area south of Whangarei around Ruakaka, Waipu, there was an area, there was a Waipu block which was 40,000 acres. The Ruakaka block was 14,800 acres. Not a single acre has been is left for those for the Patu Harakeke tribe around that area, because it was taken to settle Nova Scotian settlers. Also in that area, now people wonder why there's only one marae in that area at Takahiwai, and that's because James Busby, a couple of weeks, 6 weeks before the Treaty of Waitangi was signed, went out and for the princely sum of £40, bought a few knickknacks, 60 blankets, and a mere 100,000 acres of land. Some 25 years later, he was compensated for his, because he ended up losing that land, he was compensated £36,000. So what a capital gain over 25 years, from £40 to £36,000. Those sorts of transactions went on all the time, and it's why we're at the point where we are now, where Māori own less than 4% of the land. It was taken for settlers. Now we just need to read, in fact, the Taranaki. It's interesting, we've been talking Taranaki all evening. We just need to read the Taranaki claims bills and see the lengths that were taken to dispossess the people of Taranaki of millions and millions of acres. Now, we've heard the story about Parihaka, how through peaceful protest, the villagers of Parihaka went and pulled up survey pegs and that. So for that sort of resistance, they had their land confiscated. The Native Land Court, that was just the mechanism to separate and divide Māori from their land. Instead of land being held in tribal ownership, the land was divvied up, 10 owners per block, and then it was easy to pick off those owners and land the tribes, and Māori were dispossessed from their land. Just need to look at the rates, the way Māori couldn't afford rates even though they got no services. Now I remember reading some research around the Ngāpuhi settlements. There's some beautiful islands in the Bay of Islands. Māori couldn't afford the rates. The rates were for like street lighting, rubbish collection and all that sort of stuff on this island where nobody lived. But because they couldn't pay for the rates, the land was confiscated. They were compensated by a bit of land in Whangarei around the area of Otangarei. If you compare, no disrespect to the area of Otangarei, but if you compare that to living on one of the islands in the Bay of Islands, I know where I'd prefer to live. The Public Works Act has been used to, for example, build schools, and then when the schools have closed down, the land doesn't go back to the original owners. It's quite some, doesn't necessarily, and certainly doesn't swiftly go back to the original owners. So whānau have been dispossessed from their land through that mechanism. We in the Labour Party support this bill to Select Committee. Personally, as a Māori, I think it's really good. And Catherine Delahanty, I appreciate the fact that you've put this in the ballot and it's been drawn. I certainly was a little bit dismayed at the contribution from the speaker before me. Thank you.
Speaker.